and unsurpassed, penetrating and perfect Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 countless. Having it to see and listen to remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's words.
Good morning. Can you hear me? I can't do that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Try a little higher.
Higher?
Yeah, if it's too high, your chin blocks it. Yeah, that's not right. You told me stir now. Try now.
All right. Is this better? Yes. Thank you. Today, I would like to speak of Dogen's kindness and compassion. So, good morning, Bodhisattvas, dear friends and companions on the way. How are you today? Can you give me the thumbs up, down, or sideways? I don't know. Thank you. I really appreciate that you let me know how you are doing. And I hope that you are well and that you can return to the peacefulness of Sesshin. I would like to really thank Norman Tim Burnett, our guiding teacher at Red Cedar Zen, and my teacher, Zoketsu Norman Fisher, for the invitation to give a Dharma talk today. I am truly honored. This must be like when people go to Rome and you know, and do something in front of the Pope or something. I know you're all very kind, but it still makes me a bit nervous. So thank you for your patience with that too. Our sessions at Samish Island have been a focal point of my practice for more than 2 decades, and they have been transformative. Sorry, technology. I'm also very grateful to all the organizers in our Sangha for all the heavy lifting they have done over the last 2 decades, physically, emotionally, mentally. Thank you to the community of Christ for allowing us to come back year after year, like the swallows, even though there are fewer swallows this year. Thank you to the cooks, to the people who chop vegetables, the Dogen Rio, and each and every one of you. Because if you didn't show up, we wouldn't be here. We need all of you. Without you, there would be no Sesshin. And thank you for both your silence and your voice. Zen practice, Zazen, Sesshin, they have all been really good to me. Even though it may look like this week I'm barely limping along, inside it feels like an effortless coming home, soaring through the sky, hopping around with the rabbits, gliding over the grass with the swallows. Because truly, what is inside and what is outside? Coming home to just this, to this too, is just as it is. Early on in my practice, or maybe it was even before that, At the time when I thought reading Zen books was it, all of it, and trying to get it, I ran across a Zen saying, a Zen mondo, drinking a cup of tea, I end the war. Drinking a cup of tea, I end the war, which reminds me. How can a cup of tea do that? I wondered. How can I end a war? Because a war is a really big thing and I'm a really small person. So over the years, I have been practicing that saying, and I have encountered many internal responses. Its essence can be a profound teaching about mindfulness, presence, and the transformation of one's inner state. In Zen teachings, particularly in the Soto Zen tradition that Dogen Zenji founded, every moment and action is considered an opportunity for awakening and enlightenment. Here's one way drinking a cup of tea, I end the war, can be understood in a Zen context. Through mindfulness and presence, Zen emphasizes the practice of mindfulness and being fully present in each and every moment. When we are completely present while preparing, drinking a cup of tea, we are fully engaged with the experience. This mindfulness helps us bring clarity and peace to the mind, effectively ending the war within ourselves. The internal conflicts, distractions, and disturbances that often cloud our perception and cause suffering. There can be non-duality and inner peace. When we recognize the non-dual nature of reality, we can end the war. It can be simply the dissolution of the dualistic perception of self versus other, or of the inner conflict versus outer harmony. By fully immersing oneself in the simple act of drinking tea, one may experience a sense of unity and inner peace that transcends all these dualities. The act of ending the war through drinking tea or washing dishes can suggest a transformation of one's state of consciousness. It touches on letting go of ego-driven desires, attachments, and aversions that perpetuate conflict and suffering. Instead, one cultivates a state of equanimity and acceptance. Finding contentment in the present moment is always possible, regardless of external circumstances. Zen practice is not confined to formal meditation, seshins, and Dharma talks, but it extends into every aspect of daily life. By bringing our awareness to our every activity, like drinking tea, we can train ourselves to bring non-attachment, presence, and compassion to all situations. In essence, drinking a cup of tea, I end the war, points at awakening to the present moment and finding peace within oneself through mindfulness and non-dual perception. It highlights the transformative power of our practice in bringing clarity, harmony, and being upright in the middle of reality, in the middle of the womb of all Buddhas. I can end my war with dukkha, old age, sickness and death. Nowadays, for me, drinking a cup of tea, I end the war, means ending my personal war with reality, with what is. Oh, I don't like the weather. It's too cold. I want to be somewhere else and do something different instead of this thing I have to do. Politics, incidents and accidents. All this is real, seen from our regular, day-to-day, mundane perspective. And this too is just as it is. Looking back, I am amazed how much time, energy, and effort I poured into my wars. I used to think everything was personal. I used to blame a lot. Honestly, it did not occur to me that everybody's just going about their business. Whoops. And that, what I perceived as negative interactions was just life happening on its own terms. And people going about their own lives. They didn't do things to intentionally upset me. It was just that they are engaged with what they were doing, and it was just a negative, the negativity that I perceived was an unintentional byproduct. It was like bumping into furniture, and I was the furniture, you know? So, thank you for your patience with my rambling on about my cup of tea. And my wars. Buddha and Dharma and Sangha keep on saving me from many battles. So I really appreciate that. Yesterday, Tim mentioned that Dogen Senshi is the focus of our studies in this year. So I could ask for a thumbs up and down. I could ask who understood Dogen the first time they read something by him.
Can you ask again?
Did you understand Dogen the first time you read something by him? Well, it looks like we're all in the same group. I had a sneaking suspicion that I knew the answer before I asked, but you never know. I myself was totally lost and confused. Well, I'm still lost and confused, but I enjoy it enormously. I enjoy the feeling so much that for more than 4 years now, every Tuesday, I have a standing date on Zoom to read Dogen together with some friends. By the way, feel free to join us. Details can be found on the website. So over the years, my view of Dogen has also changed very much. Today, I believe that Dogen was showing extraordinary compassion and kindness. Dogen points at the moon, and for a long time, I was stuck on why is Dogen waving his finger around all the time? Sometimes pointing to the left, sometimes pointing to the right, sometimes up. Where am I supposed to go? I see great deep compassion in Dogen Genti's Zenshi's writing, he emphasizes the accessibility of enlightenment through the practice of Zazen and de-emphasizes the exclusive use of koans as a measure of our progress and means to realization. So Dogen taught that all beings have Buddha nature and can awaken to it. I believe this approach made Zen practice more inclusive and accessible to a broader range of practitioners, reflecting his compassionate intention to offer a path that anyone could follow. Dogen's emphasis on Zazen, just sitting, dropping body and mind, encourages us to sit without a specific goal of attaining enlightenment or solving a koan. Zazen with a non-gaining attitude where one simply sits with awareness and allows thoughts, feelings, and experiences to arise and pass without attachment. Through Zazen, Dogen aimed to cultivate a compassionate acceptance of reality, of oneself and others, just as it is, without judgment or discrimination. It's not based on my spiritual attainment or ego clinging. It is just being here. By the way, sometimes it is brought up that, oh, Soto Zen doesn't do koans. Dogen did practice with koans and recognized their potential to deepen insight. However, he emphasized their relevance to everyday life rather than as something abstract. He taught that the essence is not in its intellectual interpretation, but in embodying its truth through direct experience. My teacher, Norman Fisher, sometimes refers to koans as family stories. And we are asked to dynamically use them and apply them to our lives. This practical approach encourages us to apply insights gained from meditation to the interactions and activities in the world, fostering compassion in action. Dogen emphasized the interconnectedness of all phenomena. He taught that our individual existence is intimately tied to the existence of others. In fact, to the existence of everyone. In his famous essay, Genjo Koan, he explores the concept of the actualization of reality, suggesting that the true nature of reality is revealed when we fully embrace and embody our interconnectedness. This realization naturally fosters compassion because we recognize that the suffering of others is our own suffering and their happiness is our happiness. Dogen demonstrated compassion by meeting each person where they were in their practice, which is also what the Buddha did. Sometimes when the Buddha was asked a question, he said, yes, it is so, and remember these 8 points. Next time, answering the same question, or you just need to get 5 points. And talking to his monks, he might say, these 108 points are most important. Because both were speaking to an audience they knew, and knew that they had to formulate things in different ways. This perspective of interconnectedness fosters a natural sense of compassion that extends beyond oneself to include all sentient beings, the rocks and tiles and trees. It motivates us to act with kindness and wisdom in our interactions with others. Dogen emphasized that you cannot separate practice and realization. That's why often you see in Dogen's writing, practice dash realization, seen as one word. He articulated that enlightenment is not something to be attained in. It really doesn't want to stay, does it? Sorry. Sorry. Where was I? He articulated that enlightenment is not something to be attained in the future, but is realized in the present moment through practice. This view challenged notions that enlightenment was an elusive goal only to be achieved by very special people through external rituals, intellectual understanding, or a flash of lightning in the dark. Practice realization, seen as one word, one activity, Zazen is a reenactment ritual of the Buddha's enlightenment. The awakening under the Bodhi tree. I and all beings in the universe are free. Dogen's life reflected his deep compassion by making Zen practice accessible to all. And look, it worked. We are here today. So, integration of practice into real life, guiding students towards understanding, towards a realization that transcends our individual attainment to embrace universal awakening and compassionate action. His teachings continue to inspire us to cultivate compassion through direct experience and mindful awareness in the present moment. Dogen's writings nowadays are considered masterpieces of Zen literature, which is very surprising because for many years, it was something very hidden, something practiced in small communities. In Shobogenso, the treasury of the true Dharma eye, Dogen expounded upon profound Zen teachings in a manner that became clearer to me over time. Dogen addressed fundamental Buddhist concepts such as impermanence, emptiness, and the interconnectedness of all phenomena. His skillful use of language and his ability to elucidate complex ideas and thoughts earned recognition as for one of the greatest Buddhist philosophers. We don't look at Shobogenzo as philosophy. For us, it means something different. And what that is up to each one of us to find out. There is a process, because I should say often I'm still totally lost and I have no idea what Dogen is saying. But there's a process described by the Dogen scholar Stephen Hein that has been very helpful to me while studying Dogen. It's called a hermeneutic loop. I confess I had to look up what hermeneutic means. It means concerning interpretation of texts like the Bible and I guess Shobogenzo. But I took the liberty to take this out of his book. Readings of Dogen's Treasury of the True Dharma, which it's a great book. But I rewrote it a little and made it more compact. So there are 5 steps to it. One is the interpretive process. The hermeneutic loop describes a dynamic process of interpretation and understanding. It acknowledges that understanding Zen texts and teachings involves a continuous cycle of engagement between the scholar or student and the text that is being studied. 2, there is a dialogue between you, who is reading Dogen, and the text. According to Hein, the hermeneutic loop involves a back and forth interaction between us and the text. We bring our own preconceptions, perspectives, and intellectual framework to the interpretation process. These things shape how we originally understand the text after the first reading. Then comes step 3, re-evaluation and reinterpretation. We engage more deeply with the text and its cultural context as we become more familiar with it. So there is a constant process of re-evaluation and reinterpretation. New insights and understandings emerge through this ongoing dialogue. Number 4 is integration of perspectives. The hermeneutic loop involves integrating various perspectives, historical, cultural, linguistic, philosophical, into the interpretation. It recognizes that the interpretation is never final or definitive, but is a provisional understanding that evolves with further study and reflection. And sometimes that also means picking up some different translation and see what other people have to say when I'm really stuck. It's actually kind of fun to see how that can play out. Sometimes I doubt it's the same words that are translated. Lots of head scratching is involved too. Last but not least is the application to our Zen studies. Hein applies the hermeneutic loop to navigate the complexities of studying the Shobogenzo. It often presents rather paradoxical or enigmatic teachings. Hein encourages us to engage deeply with the textual material while remaining aware of our own biases and assumptions. This approach allows for a richer understanding of Zen philosophy and practice, historical development. So Heinz's concept underscores the dynamic nature of engaging with Zen texts. It emphasizes the importance of flexibility, open-mindedness, and ongoing dialogue with the text. That is what deepens our understanding of these teachings and their relevance. Here's a quote from the fascicle Zazen Shin, The Point of Zazen. Dogen speaks about an 80-year-old poem, Point of Zazen, written by Zheng Jiao, Zen Master Hongqi of the Tiantong Jingde Monastery. He then gives us a commentary on the poem, and in the end, his own reinterpretation of the poem. I will only quote some selected of the commentaries because I don't want to bore you all too much with this or. So again, this is from the fascicle Point of Zazen. First, I'm going to read you Zheng Jiao's poem. The text is as follows. The hub of Buddha's activity, the turning of the ancestors' hub, is known free of forms, illuminated beyond conditions. As it is known free of forms, the knowledge is subtle. As it is illuminated beyond conditions, the illumination is wondrous. When the knowledge is subtle, there is no thought of discrimination. When the illumination is wondrous, there is not the slightest hint. Where there is no thought of discrimination, the knowledge is extraordinary with no comparison. When there is not the slightest hint, the illumination has nothing to grasp. The water is clear to the bottom where the fish swims without moving. The sky is vast and boundless where the bird flies away and disappears. The hub of Buddha's activity. Buddhas do not fail to make Buddhas the hub. The hub is manifested. This is Zazen. It is known free of forms. This knowing is not, of course, conscious knowing. Conscious knowing is small. This knowing is not comprehension. Comprehension is created. Thus, this knowing is free of forms. Being free of forms is this knowing. Don't regard it as all-inclusive knowledge. Don't limit it to self-knowledge. Being free of forms is when brightness, duality, comes, meet it with brightness. When darkness, non-duality, comes, meet it with darkness. Sit through the skin you were born with. Illuminated beyond conditions. This illumination is not illuminating everything or illuminating with brilliance. Being beyond condition is this illumination. there is no thought of discrimination means there is already merging. There is already merging is actualization. Thus, there is no thought of discrimination, is not meeting even one person. Well, I could tell you more, but I need to leave some more stuff for you to explore on your own. So now I will read you Dogen Zenchi's reinterpretation of this poem. I love it. The hub of Buddha's activity, the turning of the ancestors' hub, moves along with beyond thinking and is completed in the realm of beyond merging. As it moves along beyond thinking, its appearing is immediate. As it is completed in the realm beyond merging, completeness itself is realization. When its appearing is intimate, you have no illusion. When completeness reveals itself, it is neither real nor apparent. When you have immediacy without illusion, immediacy is dropping away with no obstacles. Realization, beyond real or apparent, is effort without expectation. Clear water all the way to the bottom, a fish swims like a fish. Vast sky, transparent throughout, a bird flies like a bird. And then, this is really cute actually. Dogen adds, although Zheng Jiao's text is not incomplete, Zazen may be spoken of in this way. All descendants of Buddha ancestors should practice Zazen as the single great matter. It is the authentic seal transmitted from person to person. I love the practice realization brought forth. Throughout Shobogenzo, Dogen emphasizes the inseparability of practice and realization, practice and enlightenment. Realization is not something to be attained in the future. It is now. There is an emphasis on integrating Zen practice into everyday life. Enlightenment is manifested through ordinary activities and interactions, encouraging us all to see all aspects of life, whether in meditation, work, with our partners and husbands and children and wives, parents, as opportunities for awakening. To this day, this perspective resonates deeply with me. Dogen, in some of the fascicles, really provides practical examples and anecdotes that illustrate how compassion manifests in everyday life. In the instructions for the cook, Dogen wrote literally instructions for the cook, he as the abbot. He emphasized the importance of preparing meals with compassion and mindfulness. He advised the cook to treat each ingredient with care and respect. No single rice kernel left behind. And he recognized the effort that went into the cultivation and nourishment it would provide others. Every mundane task treated like this is no longer mundane. Dogen placed great emphasis on Sangha, our community, his community, throughout space and time. He encouraged mutual support and care among his monks, teaching that compassion should extend beyond individual concerns to encompass the well-being of the entire community. This communal aspect of compassion is evident throughout Shobogenzo. He responded to suffering. He addressed the issue of suffering and how we should work with it. He taught that when encountering suffering, whether within oneself or others, one should not turn away or ignore it, but instead face it directly with an open heart, to become intimate with it. This compassionate response involves listening deeply, offering support, and taking action when possible to alleviate suffering and bring comfort. What do I take away from all this? I value practical acts of kindness as expressions of compassion. Avalokiteshvara's compassion, hearing the cries of the world, joined together with Manjushri's wisdom. And in that combination, they become Samantabhadra's helping hands. Samantabhadra's enlightening activity. Being radically present and engaging in these activities with sincerity and without expectation of reward, practitioners cultivate a spirit of generosity and compassion that extends beyond formal practice into daily life. And none of it stays. This too falls under the fleeting nature of impermanence. We cannot get away from compassionate action. It is life itself. Let us not postpone our compassionate efforts. Let's not postpone recognizing the impermanence of life and the opportunity to alleviate suffering in the present moment. I'd like to end today's talk with a poem. No, it's not by Dogen, and no, it's not even a Zen poem. It doesn't actually have too much to do with today's talk. I just like it a lot. Alive or dead, you know, who is to say? But I want to experience life and reality as long as I have the opportunity. And this poem by Gina Poro, titled "Oh Death," really struck a chord with me. Death asked me to join him for dinner. So I slipped into my favorite black dress that I had been saving for a special occasion and let him walk me to our candlelit tryst. He ordered a ribeye, extra rare. I ordered 2 desserts and red wine. And then I sipped and wondered why he looked so familiar and smelled like earth and memory. He felt like a place both far away and deep within my body. A place that whispers to me on the crisp autumn breeze along the liminal edges of dusk and dawn, somewhere between dancing and stillness. He looked at me with the endless night sky in his eyes and asked, "Did you live your life, my love?" As I swirled my wine in its glass, I wondered if I understood the thread I wove into the greater fabric, if I loved in a way that was deep and freeing, if I let pain and grief carve me into something more grateful, if I made enough space to be in awe that flowers exist, and take the time to watch the honeybees drink their sweet nectar, I wondered what the riddles of regret and longing had taught me, and if I realized just how beautiful and insignificant and monstrous and small we are. For the brief moment that we are here, before we all melt back down into ancestors of the land. Death watched me lick buttercream from my fingers as he leaned in and said, "My darling, it's time." So I slipped my hand into his as he slowly walked me home. I took a deep breath as he leaned in close for the long kiss goodnight. And I felt a soft laugh escape my lips as his mouth met mine, because I could never resist the man with the lust for my soul in his eyes and a kiss that makes my heart stop. If there was something in today's talk that is useful to you, please take it and make good use of it. If I didn't, please forget every single word I said and return to our silence. Thank you very much. May our intentions equally extend to every being and place with the true merit of Buddha's way. Beings are numberless, I vow to save them. Illusions are inexhaustible, I vow to do them. Dharma gifts are boundless, I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is unsurpassable, I vow to become it.